In my years working in relationship health and emotional wellness, I have sat with hundreds of couples navigating exactly this something most people never say plainly. Most women who lose the man they love did not do anything obviously wrong. They were not cruel. They were not neglectful. They loved sincerely, showed up consistently, and still something shifted. Slowly, quietly, he became distant. The warmth thinned, and the connection that once felt solid began to feel like something she was holding together by herself. The most painful part is she had no idea why. What I have discovered consistently across age groups and backgrounds is that the disconnection almost always traces back to the same root cause. Not a lack of love, not incompatibility, not age, but three specific emotional needs that men carry deeply, often without the language to name them. These needs go unmet not because the women in their lives do not care, but because nobody ever explained what these needs actually are or why they matter so profoundly. My name is Dr. Ava, and today I am going to explain them clearly. If you are a woman watching this who loves or wants to love a man deeply, this may be one of the most useful conversations you ever have about him. Let's begin with the myth out there on what men need in relationships. When people talk about what men need in relationships, the conversation usually stays on the surface. Respect, admiration, physical affection, and a little space now and then. Yes, those things matter, but they describe behavior without explaining the underlying need. They tell you what to do without telling you why it works, when it works, how it works, or why even the most loving woman can do everything she has been told and still miss what her partner is actually craving. Clinical evidence from relationship research shows that unmet emotional needs correlate with withdrawal and decreased relationship satisfaction. Studies show that men often express distress through distance rather than conflict. Need 1, emotional safety. He yearns for a space to be fully human. Have you ever watched a man you love go quiet not in anger or indifference, but in a way that felt like he was retreating inside himself? No matter what you said, did, or asked, the door seemed to close a little further. That silence has a name, and it is not what most people think. Men who grew up in environments where emotional expression was discouraged learned early to associate vulnerability with danger. Not physical danger, but social danger. The danger of being seen as weak, of losing dignity, of changing the way someone important views them. The danger of becoming worse than worthless. So they respond with the skill of containing themselves and presenting strength, even when inside they feel anything but strong. By the time a man reaches his later decades, this habit is deeply ingrained. The fear underneath it, the fear that honesty about struggle or vulnerability will cost him respect, does not fade with age. In fact, it intensifies because the stakes feel higher and dignity feels more fragile than ever before. Biologically, chronic emotional suppression is damaging. When a man habitually holds back honest emotional expression, his stress hormone cortisol remains elevated. His nervous system stays in a state of vigilance that over time creates distance not just from his partner, but from his own inner life. What he often desperately hopes for, without being able to ask, is a relationship where he can put down the performance, where a moment of genuine feeling does not cost him anything in her eyes. One patient in his late 60s, a former engineer, told me the moment he realized he loved his partner was quiet. He shared a fear he had carried for 2 years, and she did not try to fix it, minimize it, or react. She just sat with him fully present. He said it was the first time in his adult life he spoke honestly and did not immediately regret it. That is emotional safety. Need 2, space without suspicion. The freedom to reset. This is the one that causes the most confusion and unnecessary pain. When a man withdraws into silence or solitude, it is almost never about you. I know that is hard to believe at the moment because the silence arrives and the mind rushes to fill it. Did I say something wrong? Is he pulling away? Does he still want this? Is there someone else? The natural response to that fear is to reach toward him with questions and a need for reassurance. The intention is love. The impact for him is pressure. Pressure applied to a man who is already emotionally overloaded does not open him up. It closes him further. Neurological research shows men and women process emotional stress differently. When stress accumulates, the male brain tends to seek a reduction in external input, quiet solitude, or low stimulation activity as a way of allowing the prefrontal cortex to re-establish balance. This is not avoidance. It is literally how the male nervous system recovers. This need increases with age because resilience changes, recovery takes longer, and emotional noise feels louder. What this looks like practically may vary. It might be an hour in the garage alone, a walk around the neighborhood, or sitting quietly without a specific purpose. Whatever reduces stimulation allows reset. When it is allowed without interpretation or interrogation, he returns softer, more present, and more connected than he could have been if asked to stay engaged through overload. I once worked with a couple in their 70s. The husband spent difficult weeks each evening in the backyard doing nothing in particular. His wife initially found this troubling, interpreting it as withdrawal. Over time, she began to simply let it be. No questions when he returned, no anxiety greeting him at the door, just warmth. He told me that her willingness to trust his solitude without turning it into a problem was one of the primary reasons he felt closer to her than anyone he had ever known. She became someone he came back to because she gave him room to find himself. Women who understand this and can hold their own center while he holds his become deeply attractive to men at this stage of life because they offer something rare, the freedom to be whole rather than the pressure to be constantly present. Need 3: respect and being chosen. The two things that keep his heart open. This final need is actually two interconnected needs. The first is respect. I want to define this carefully because the word is often used loosely. For a man in his later decades, respect is not about superficial courtesy or difference. It is about trusting his judgment, acknowledging his decisions, and allowing him to make choices and have a feeling that the woman beside him believes he is capable. Relationship research, including longitudinal studies by Dr. John Gottman, shows that men are more likely to disengage, not when they feel unloved, but when they feel chronically doubted, second-guessed, or undermined. When respect is absent, the result is slow withdrawal, not loud, not dramatic, quiet disengagement. Decisions are met with counter-suggestions, competence in question. Over time, this creates distance. Biological stress pathways are activated, cortisol rises, the bonding hormone oxytocin lowers. The man who might have been warm and engaged becomes mechanically present, absent in spirit. What restores him is not grand affirmation. It is a small, consistent trust expressed in ordinary moments, asking his opinion and genuinely considering it, allowing him to handle things his way, even if it is not how you would have done it, and saying in your own words, "I trust you," and meaning it. When a man feels genuinely trusted, something in him steadies. His affection becomes more spontaneous. His generosity expands. Trust is the language his heart understands most fluently. The second part of this need is being chosen, not merely needed, not tolerated, not kept around for practicality or comfort, but chosen for who he is beneath all of that. After decades of life experience, many men know the difference between being valued for what they provide and being wanted for who they truly are. When he senses he is genuinely chosen, the knowledge that he matters cannot be transferred to someone else. That is when warmth returns. That is when presence deepens. Practical steps to show emotional safety space and respect. For emotional safety notice, one moment when he seems to be moving towards sharing something real, and rather than responding with advice or reassurance, simply stay quiet and present. Let your silence be an invitation, not an absence. For space without suspicion the next time he goes quiet, practice naming it differently in your own mind. Not, "He is pulling away from me," but "He is resetting, and when he is done, he will come back." Hold your center while he finds his reserve. For respect and being chosen, find one genuine specific thing you trust about him. His judgment, his character, or how he handles something, and tell him not as flattery, but as honest acknowledgement. Then ask yourself whether your daily engagement communicates that you want him, not just what he provides. These are not dramatic gestures. They are the quiet, consistent shifts you make in how you show up in your relationship. For a man who has spent decades hoping for exactly this, the impact of these changes will be extraordinary. To every woman watching who has loved an older man and at some point felt as though she was trying to reach someone who had disappeared behind glass, hear this: he is not cold, he is not indifferent, and he is almost certainly not falling out of love. He is a man who learned over a lifetime to protect what was most tender in him, a man who built walls not out of cruelty, but out of necessity, and who has often been waiting, without even knowing it, for a relationship safe enough to finally lay those walls down. Emotional safety, the freedom to reset, and the dignity of respect and genuine choosing are his way back to you. They are the conditions under which the warmth he has been holding begins to return to the surface. You cannot force that warmth, but you can create the conditions for it. When you do, the man you receive in return is worth every second of patience it took to reach him. Love later in life is not quieter than what came before. It is deeper. It is chosen with eyes wide open. It is built not on the urgency of youth, but on the hard-won wisdom of people who know what truly matters. If this conversation gave you clarity, recognition, or simply the reassurance that you are not alone in trying to understand the man you love, please like this video right now and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe so you never miss any content. Leave a comment telling me which of these 3 needs surprised you most. I read every single one, and I truly mean that. This is Dr. Ava reminding you that the love you are trying to build is absolutely worth building. He is worth understanding, and so are you.